whatever you're doing, gardening or sewing, whatever it is, there is a lesson that the universe is showing us. And it's like, if we just slow down, for me, I just had to slow down and say, okay, let me just really feel into what was going on in that moment when I flipped, when there was a lesson. There's some kind of awareness that needs to happen. So slowing down, talking to people, journaling, and just recognizing that whatever you are doing in your life, it is your spiritual curriculum.
Hello, and welcome to the Connectedness Podcast. Just as you might have guessed, I talk about connection and connectedness on this podcast, our connection with everything in the world around us. Whether you see it or not, we're all connected, and it doesn't matter if it's our dog, our cat, our God, our body, and I'll also talk about some more abstract connections like our career or our land, our community, our emotions, your body. Life is all about connection, so the sooner we recognize that, the sooner we can have an easier, more meaningful life. I will talk about these connections through different lenses, things like synchronicities and coincidences, or just everyday little bits of magic and miracles that we usually dismiss. It's really important that we pay attention to all of this so we can live an easier, more meaningful life. So welcome to the show. I'm your host, Karen Cleveland. Hello, welcome back, everyone. So happy to have you back. Today, I'm actually talking with someone I met through a series of connections and coincidences that I might not have come in contact with Pamela if I hadn't just followed my intuition to go to a certain place at a certain time. It was a book signing. I'm talking with Pamela about connection. And just a little brief intro about Pamela. She was traveling in her van doing a one-woman show up until about 2020. And since that time, she's been building a home. She's been learning dog and human agility, taking long walks by the Dungeness River, which is here in Washington State, and just welcoming Olympic Peninsula travelers to her new short-term rental studio, which I still need to go and check out and rent for a couple of nights. Welcome to the show, Pamela.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, you bet. So I'm really excited to hear because you got a new puppy several years ago. And of course, I've known you for more years. I've known, some of your dogs and some of what you've done. But why don't you just start and tell the listeners what this has meant for you? Where does this connection story start that we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because you and I met at James Redfield, wasn't it
Yes,
his
yes,
talk? And
it
he is
was.
all about coincidences, the Celestine prophecy.
Yeah,
And I've watched that many times since then, and it's really good. So it's funny that we met there at
yeah.
James Redfield about coincidences.
And I think oddly enough, it was about his second book or maybe third or fourth. I don't know which number book it was. I got the book, but I never actually read it. But I went to his reading. So yeah, I was there. That's where we
And you
met.
still have the book.
I think I do. I've moved and I still have some boxes, but yeah, I'm sure I
Yeah,
do.
I watched, not to get too off track, but I've watched the documentary that he did, and he said watch it many times because the first time it's like, oh yeah, this is good, but then you watch it again and again, and after everything we've been through in the last couple of years, it's like, yeah, it's really good.
So it's the James Redfield documentary on the Celestine prophecy.
Yeah,
Okay, I will look that
it's
up.
probably not a documentary. I think it's a
A
movie
movie.
called, yeah. But
Okay.
anyway, I'm sorry about that little sidetrack. Getting back to your question, I've had Zeta now for a year and a half. She's a year and a half. And and I had never done agility before. And for you and the people listening, I used to think dog agility was just like, oh my God, you just like let your dog run and jump over the jumps and do the tunnel and the A-frame, and it's just all so fun. But there is something that is so much more complex than just watching your dog run and jump. It's all about the connection.
Is
It's
that
all
right?
about how connected are you to the dog. And if you're not, you are going to fail in the ring. Your
Mm,
dog will just go running around and not come when you call him. And it's really embarrassing. This has happened to me because they want you in and out of the ring in competitions. And if you can't catch your dog, if your dog won't come to you, it's
mm,
not fun. I mean, it can be kind of funny to watch if you're on the outside, but
right.
it's just like for me, the time it happened, it was so difficult because it's like this is showing to the world on a magnified level that we are not connected. And it
Oh,
hurt.
oh,
It's just like it just was so hard. But then when things are connected, when you're connected with your dog, it's so smooth and so beautiful and so fun to watch and participate in. But you got to be connected. You got to have the trust between you and the dog. Um, and I was thinking back when you asked me to come on this podcast about one of the times that I learned, and I videotape all my lessons, and I saw my codependence really stand out. I was like, no, I'm not a codependent person, right? We've all been through that. We've all taken the classes and no, not to be codependent. But I was in this lesson and I was running with my dog. You, as a handler, you learned the blind cross, the front cross, the rear cross. There's all these different ways of you and your dog running together so that they're lined up for the next jump.
okay,
It's amazing. But
okay,
anyway, I was trying to do this rear cross. And so the dog has to go ahead of you and you run behind them. And I just couldn't get it. I could not get it. And so my trainer said, why don't you run with my dog? And when I ran with her dog, I was doing what I needed to do. I was running, I was in position, and everything just flowed. Then, when I looked at the video, I saw myself like crouching over, trying to help Zeta. She's just a Boston Terrier, right? So she's
okay,
just 14 pounds. And my
okay.
codependence kicked in, and I was like bending over, trying to help her and all that stuff, which really messed her up. And it
Oh,
made me look like an idiot too because I wasn't doing my job. I wasn't running where I needed to run to let her do her thing. So the codependence that I saw on the videotape was really, it was very humbling because I thought, oh, I'm past all this stuff. I'm not a codependent person. But it really showed me that when we are in a dysfunctional relationship like that, I mean, it comes through with agility in me,
yeah,
but you could see it
yeah.
in anything you're doing in life. If
Yeah.
you take a look at it, you'll see how it is not helpful at all in the connection.
So first, I just want to say it seems like a year and a half is really young for a dog to be performing like this. And I mean, I know that you can absolutely have a connection with an animal at that age. I mean, much younger than then. But there I have so many questions based on what you just said. I'm not sure which one to ask first. But when would you say you started before you realized the codependence, I guess? When did that connection start as far as her behavior? Because I know it's probably based a lot on of what your expectation is, and when you're expecting her to do something, even though that's not what you want her to do, maybe you're expecting it, and maybe that's a little bit where the codependence comes. But anyways, I mean, how old was she when you really started feeling like, oh, we're connected, we can start doing this?
Yeah. And to your point just a little bit ago, there's a difference between luring a dog, like luring them to
Okay.
take a jump versus going right on. You did what we set out to do, and then you reward after. You don't lure them to do it
Hmm.
because that's just manipulation.
Okay.
And manipulation doesn't work.
So that's not how agility is, because I agree. What you first said, it looks like fun, look at the dogs out there jumping and playing, and looks like you just train them to do it. You give them treats, you just train them and they just do it, but that's not how it is.
You need to be connected. The handler has to learn so much. I've had a couple friends that were going to do agility because it looked like fun, and they took a lesson or two and they're just like, can't do that because
Oh.
there's just so much involved with it. And I don't want to get too deep into that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
really, your question, they have to be 15 months old before they can go in the ring and compete. So Zeta was like 15 months and 3 days.
Okay.
And for overachievers, what can I say? But I wanted
Okay.
her just to get in there, just get a feel, just get acclimated to it. I didn't push her too hard, but she loved it. And I could tell that we were connected when we just started running together, and I could feel that she's over there. She loves agility, right? She wants to take the jump. She wants to do the A-frame and everything. And you can just feel it. It's like with a person, right? You
Yeah.
just feel it when you're connected versus when one of them is trying too hard, or there might be manipulation or anything other than pure connection. And when it's a pure connection, I've had friends in agility tell me there's just nothing like it. Like you go through all the training, all the trials and waiting and everything. And then when you feel it, when you have what's called a cue, when you make it through the whole obstacle course without fault and you have good time, there's nothing like it. It's so fun because you just feel that connection.
And since you've started that and feeling that connection and really understanding how you feel it, do you feel like you're feeling it other places in your life, or has it led to further development, personal development for you?
Yeah, I feel it in different areas for sure. Just in relationships in general, I can feel when I'm off or when the relationship is off and what I need to let go of. It's pretty much a lot of letting go, like
Yeah.
the control. Whenever I feel like I'm trying to control a situation, um, it doesn't work. I mean, that sounds so simple and we know that, but
Right.
like, for example, this agility camp that we went to last year, it was supposed to be 93 degrees and she's got a flat nose. She doesn't do well in heat. I don't do well in that kind of heat either. And I could feel myself trying to control that situation. And then I thought, no, just focus on what you can control. Get a fan, get a chili vest. It reflects the sun off the dog. And
Mm,
and to let go as much as possible of trying to control the situation and focusing on what is within my realm here that I can control, and just focus on that, because otherwise, you could drive yourself crazy.
that's definitely a life lesson, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
So I'm curious about when you didn't notice until you saw the video how codependent you were about the how she was doing. When you looked back at that, could you feel at the time? So in retrospect, could you say, "Oh, that's how I felt while I was doing that," and then turn around and recognize it in your life in other situations? Um, because sometimes we don't know we're doing it, right, until we see a video and
Yeah.
we feel a certain way, and then we realize, oh, this is how I felt with this person or in this career or in some other situation.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it takes looking at the video, a lot of journaling. What I felt in the moment was this just isn't working,
Mm,
and I've had
okay.
that feeling before, like I'm trying so hard, like many of us. You try so hard, you think you're doing everything right. What else do you want from me?
Yeah.
I'm doing everything. And then you see that, and it's like, oh, no wonder. But when we don't take an observer point of view, step back and just kind of observe, all all we can feel is something isn't right.
Yeah.
Something isn't flowing. It's the difference between control and things flowing.
Yeah. So do you have a way you step into that observer role now without a video camera?
Well, I would say the more I have watched videos in the past, the easier it is for me to see in a lesson when I'm over controlling or trying to help too much. It's become very easy. In fact, now I'm working on distance, and it's really cool because that's where in some of these trials, you have your dog and you can't be near them. You have
Mm,
to send them to a jump from behind this marked line. So you can't be close to them. So we're working on distance, which is super cool because she's over there, I'm over here, and we're still connected. Like we're
mm-hmm.
still connected, even though we're not like right next to each other. So that's helped. In answer to your question, that's helped a lot, just being able to focus on that too.
Wow. Is it truly a felt connection? Is she watching you, or she's just going by your energy and your connection?
Well, the energy and connection, but she's watching too. These
Okay.
dogs are so incredibly smart.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but they're watching everything. They watch, I've done a footwork course, like which foot goes first, and they actually take a different lead. Like with horses, when they're cantering around, how they take a different lead. Well, dogs do that too. And if they go into the tunnel with the wrong lead, they can get really hurt. So it's
Oh,
up to me to have my foot, the right foot forward, so that she changes lead to go into the tunnel. And
interesting.
she watches it. And I said to my trainer one time, I said, how does she know that? She goes, they just do. They just do. They watch you so closely
Hmm,
that they automatically will change leads.
interesting. It does sound a lot like some of my friends and the work they do with their horses and the
Hmm.
connection between them and how they move and how they train.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think has fundamentally changed about your life or about your relationship with your dog through this process?
Oh my gosh. Patience,
Just a small question,
patience, big time.
really.
I mean, I have in the beginning, Zeta was a handful. I mean, she was so demanding and she had so much energy, and I could feel myself losing it. Just like, my God, my whole life is this dog now, like, what do you need now? And, she's got this thing called the monkey cry where she'll, whine and she wants something. And I've learned in myself, I could feel before when I would react. And now I can feel where it's just like, oh, okay, she needs a timeout.
Mm,
And I would put her in the crate, and she actually relaxes in her crate. She loves it and she can calm down. So before I would react to something, get angry or frustrated with her, I could feel myself. It's like, wow, I'm really maturing. I'm maturing because I'm not letting it get to me. I am just going, okay, this is what needs to happen now. And it's much better.
mhm, mhm. What's your favorite way to process all the information that's coming in? Because it sounds like it's been a really incredible journey.
Yeah, I really enjoy journaling, doing the video in slow motion where I can see what point there was an error or something that could have been done better. I like talking to people. I like talking to you. And I have another good friend who's in agility, who's also into personal development, which not everybody is. I'll go to trials and
Right.
I'm like, what have you learned about yourself? And they go, what? Huh? I'm like, oh my God, this is just ripe for learning about ourselves and our patterns. But my one friend, her and I will talk too, and we understand um, how amazing this whole thing is for personal development. And I just want to say with your listeners, it doesn't have to be agility. Whatever you're doing, gardening or sewing, whatever it is, there is a lesson that the universe is showing us. And it's like, if we just slow down, for me, I just had to slow down and say, okay, let me just really feel into what was going on in that moment when I flipped, you know, when there was a lesson, there's some kind of awareness that needs to happen. So slowing down, talking to people, journaling, and just recognizing that whatever you are doing in your life, it is your spiritual curriculum.
Wow, your spiritual curriculum. So I think that's really interesting, because going back to what you said, that you would see other people at the trials and people had no idea what you were talking about the personal journey. And all of a sudden to me, it was like, oh, right. This isn't, it's not a come to agility for your spiritual development. It might be for some people, but like you said, it's your spiritual curriculum. So it's going to be something different for all of us, perhaps. It might be agility. It might be, like you said, those other things as well. And
Yeah.
so based on that, and you were talking about, okay, slowing down, look what happened at the shift, journaling, talking to people. That's really important. So we're creating our own curriculum basically based on
Yeah.
what brought you. I mean, so based on some kind of a personal interest or talent or something, what brought you to agility in the first place?
Well, I just wanted to see what my dog was capable of,
Okay.
and I wanted to give her the most exposure to be who she can be, right? Rather than just walking by my side, she can really perform and
Yeah.
really get out there. Um, yeah,
Do you feel like she led you to agility, or is leading you
I
through this
think
journey?
so. Because I didn't know at all. And then I started looking at agility and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to run. I'm like, I don't even know if I can run anymore. Honestly, I'm like, they're out there running. And so I started running. I go, yeah, I can still run. But I wasn't a runner. I wasn't a sprinter, any of those things. You have to do short turns and all this stuff. Um, but I think she also has helped me to stay in the present moment
Hmm.
more. There was a study done with these dolphin trainers. It was either whales or dolphins. And the trainers would go in there and they did a study where they showed the trainers who went in with this, I know it all. I know how to control this animal. I know how to train them. And they compared that person with the trainer who went in and just said, what's different about this dolphin today?
Hmm.
How does this dolphin look different today than yesterday? Or even like a half an hour ago? How is it different? And they said it was dolphins. They said the dolphins had so much connection with the person because the person was in the present moment, not saying, I know it all, I'm a
Oh.
trainer, I know how to do all this, but how is this? And just imagine, like you with your parents or your friends or something, when they're so tuned in and they're going, how is this person different right now
Right.
than yesterday? Rather than, oh yeah, she's my sister, I know, and you've already put them in a box,
Right.
right? You know
Right.
who they are, what they're going to say. It's like there's no room for connection because you've put them in a box. It's the same with the dogs. Like when I'm really tuned into her, she's tuned in to me. Like we got this thing going.
Yeah.
But yeah, one time at a lesson, I was trying to get a jump set up and she ran off, and it was training near a cliff. It was like I didn't want her running off, but somebody said to me, where were you when she lost interest and when she went running the other way?
Ah.
And I'm like, that's the truth. I was focused on setting up the jump right.
Right.
So that's when I came across that video of the dolphins and saying, even with her in the ring, if I need to set up a jump, I need to hold her in my arms or put her in the van. Because if I'm not connected with her out there when we're doing our thing, the disconnect happens.
So it's like a circular, yeah, connection. If you're not paying attention, then she will go off. She won't pay attention to you. Yeah.
Exactly.
That
It is.
reminds me, I don't remember exactly what it is. It's not Krishna, but one of the gods teaches that in order to talk, you have to have someone to listen. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're not talking, right? So there needs to be, both sides of it. And isn't that the truth of life? The, balance and order and everything. It has to be give and take. So
Mm.
yeah,
And yeah.
go
And
ahead.
the intelligence between us, have you ever noticed, like when you are giving full attention, the answers that come from the other person are so much richer.
Mm,
Like
yeah,
I've done communication skills where we're just really totally focused and we watch videos. It's like we could not have done this without the person listening,
interesting.
without that deep, deep listening, because otherwise it's just a monologue.
Right, right. That's true. When I would teach people animal communication or talk about animal communication, it's like it's really about focus. You actually have to intentionally sit and be quiet and listen or try to connect. Same as with the friends on the couch, or you can sit next to a person. You might still be connected, but you're paying attention to your phone or whatever else. It's not until you look at each other and you start focusing on each other
Mhm.
that things start happening. What is your education process for further development? Do you have one?
I do. I work with a couple different people, and I also work a lot with myself now. Like, I think a lot of us are getting to that point where it's like, this is awesome, and I love to share ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But I also just notice that when I tune in, like this past couple of years, I've just been really focusing on just not depending so much on all the outside sources, but just going inward and just being still. And that can be so hard. I mean, I was raised in Minnesota where we were always going, right? And
Right.
I could think I was a failure if I didn't do something. But I try to turn my computer off like 7 at the latest, and just either I'll lay in reconstructive pose and or I'll just stare at the fireplace.
That's
And
awesome.
there's a lot coming up. Like I should be doing something. I could be doing something else, but everything happens in that space where you allow more space. And who was it? I just read the other day. Beware of the something of a boring life. Like, don't be scared to have a boring life.
Mm,
And that really struck me because I noticed that when I just thought my life has become so boring. I used to do all this stuff. I used to have something going on all the time. And now I'm laying on my bathroom floor. It's a heated floor.
oh,
So it's really
nice.
nice. But I just lay on that floor for hours sometimes. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything, but everything happens. Everything unfolds when
Mm-hmm.
we just give ourselves that space. And I'm not saying like just become a couch potato and do nothing all the time, but the actions we take are more from that connected place. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like it isn't from this predetermined control ego. It's from this inspired action. Like I mean, if I may, one last analogy with the A frame in agility. These little dogs run up at uh, at an angle. They cannot see what's on the other side.
mm,
They have to go on trust, and then we've worked it before. But I thought when she was doing her first one in a trial, I go, that's just like my life. It's like most of us don't know where we're going.
yeah,
We can't see what's on the other side of this.
exactly.
Oh, what's happening on the planet. We don't know. I mean, that's the bottom line is we just don't know, but we have to trust. We have to, you know, go up that into the great unknown and get to the other side
That's
without
true.
necessarily knowing. and just keep, I mean, trust in ourselves is just huge. And, I think sometimes, I've said to myself, oh, I should have done that. And then I thought, when I couldn't sleep one night, I thought, what if every decision I've ever made has been the correct one?
Wow.
And I fell asleep. It was, yeah.
That's pretty powerful. Every decision you made was the
Yeah.
correct one. Ultimately, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're all the correct choices, decisions, but we turn it over in our head so many times.
Right. And that leads to sleepless nights and beating ourselves up, not being kind to ourselves. I could feel when I said that to myself, I just felt this, like this just embrace, like, yes, being kind to yourself. Like, even if I had made that other decision, that would have been right for my particular spiritual path.
Right.
So it takes a load off.
That's true. Because of the last few years, I've, had to turn certain decisions over in my head about, do I want to do something or not do something? And ultimately, checking in with my divine guidance, either way is the right decision. There's a lesson either way.
Mm-hmm.
There's no wrong answer. So whether you do this or you don't do this, there's going to be some kind of a learning. There's going to be, information you will learn and you will grow. Yeah. Yeah.
And I look at you see, you got me started on agility, but in agility, there's this refusal line. Like if they don't take the jump or they refuse it, but it's different than if they go up to it and just get their footing,
Hmm.
right? And they kind of assess and then they do it. That's not a penalty. And I thought with myself too, it's like, where am I not giving myself permission? Or am I just refusing something? Am I just in my ego going, no, no, I'm not going to do that? Or am I just taking my time to
Yeah.
say, is this the right thing? Am I going to go for it or not?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And earlier when you said, what if every decision I made was correct or the right decision? I love those what if statements. I use those an awful lot because it really seems to open us up to it's okay and possibilities. What if I am fully supported doing what I love?
Yeah.
What if? That's powerful. Is there anything that I should have asked you that I neglected to that,
What
or
if you would have asked me this one question? That would have been so awesome. What if we have covered everything? What if, yeah, I love that too.
yeah, yeah. Is there anything you wish everyone knew? Like if you had a message to everyone, what would it be? It's like,
It probably changes every day, but right now I would say slow down. I got to say this to myself all the time. I mean,
mm,
I get excited talking about this topic,
yeah,
but it really does seem to me that if we all slowed down and really noticed what was revealing itself to us in our lives, we could relax. We could relax a lot more.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I like that. Thank you. Do you have
Yeah.
anything you want the listeners to know about you? I'll of course put any links if you have them on the show notes, but do you have any books or shows or anything coming up you want to promote?
Well, no, they could go to my website, pamelaziemann.com, to see what I've been doing. And also, I'm just joining this other unite.live because it's all I don't know, I'm just learning more about it, but I'll have my studio apartment on there that I'm renting out. If people are in Swim or they're in the Olympic Peninsula, I'm renting out my fabulous first floor place, and I'm right by the river. Maybe you can see it, but
Yeah, it's kind of
right
light.
by the Dungeness River, miles and miles of walking trails. And yeah, I just love to share it with people. I love to go foraging. I'm going to be seaweed foraging next week, and
Wow.
I'm just doing all this really fun stuff. So that's actually where my energy is these days, is just welcoming people into my home the whole first floor, private entrance and all that. But just hanging out by the river and exploring.
Nice. And they find it at unite.live. Is that what you called it?
Actually, they could just email me
Oh,
and I
okay.
can let them
Okay.
know more about it. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
But you might want to check out unite.live. I think it's a pretty cool site because there's no harvesting of information like on all the other channels and stuff like that. It's very clean and
Oh, I've not heard of it, so I will check
yeah.
it out. All right.
Yeah, you might like it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Pamela. And I will say goodbye to the listeners. Look forward to connecting with everyone later and have a great day. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to head over to revkarenpodcast.com. That's REVKAREN podcast.com. There you're going to find the tools for finding more meaning and happiness in your own life. Plus, if you have a story that you want to share with me, either on or off the air, be sure to look for that form. Make sure you follow me so you get notified when new episodes drop. And also, I'd love to connect with you in my Facebook group, Connectedness with Rev Karen. So head over to revkarenpodcast.com. I hope to see you there.